meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals. We do have a quorum. We do have a full house. One member is by Zoom. Doug, can you hear us? And before we go forward, I'd like to recognize a couple of dignitaries we have with us tonight. We have County Attorney, or maybe Acting County Attorney, Miss Joni Winters with us. Can you hear us? And in the back row, we have Judge Johnson with us tonight, so welcome. If you intend to speak tonight, consider yourself under oath. This is a judicial meeting. I'd ask that you disable the audible function of your communicators, please. And if you do want to speak tonight, sign in with Miss Bridget over here, please. And the format for tonight's meeting will be as follows, with the exception of the item we have for old business tonight. The first item will be the order of public hearing for variance and special exceptions and appeals will be the statement of matter to be heard, which I'll read. We'll then have a staff presentation of the application, then presentation by the applicant, limited to 5 minutes. Presentation in support, limited to 5 minutes. Presentation in opposition, limited to 5 minutes, and the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to the opposition, limited to 5 minutes. Then the case will be closed to the public, and the BZA will make a motion concerning the application stating specific finding of facts and conclusions of law. First off, members, item number, case number VA 02-05-02-23, which is the second item on your agenda, has been deferred for June. We will not be hearing that tonight. Our next item of business is the possible approval of minutes of the meeting for April the 4th. Is there a motion?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we've read the minutes and we move that we accept as presented.
Second.
Motion is made, and I heard a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Our first possible case under old business is case number SEO 1-04-04-23, a special exception request for a practice racetrack. The property is located at 15 Holly Point Road, Prosperity, South Carolina, tax map number 534-24. And before we can discuss that, there needs to be a motion. If you'll remember, we tabled this. There needs to be a motion to bring it off the table.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to bring it off the table.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. That being said, we tabled this at the last meeting in the hopes that the people that are opposed to this, in communication with the applicant, could come to some sort of agreement. Mr. Randolph.
Yes, sir.
Has an agreement been reached?
No, sir.
No agreement's been reached.
No agreement has been reached. On 4/11/23, I sent everyone an agreement letter, requested a response for negotiation on the 14th, and as a meeting was being held on their behalf to review my agreement letter, in which you guys have in front of you. Received a response that all parties couldn't make the meeting and we'll have another meeting in a week or so. Never got a response. That tells me they're not willing to negotiate or come to an agreement. Request that before a decision is made, that the council come out to observe conditions during a scheduled practice, to this is the only way that I can see that you guys can fairly make a decision by witnessing yourself, and you will find that the findings are not as bad as they are currently being presented. As a reminder, whichever decision is made, the track will remain as is, and our kids, our children, and friends will ride dirt bikes on our property, on or off the track. As for negotiations, the opportunity for my neighbors to negotiate with me or my family is over, unless
Did you say over or open?
it's over,
Over, okay.
unless we can come to an agreement here today.
Thank you. Any questions from Mr. Randolph from the board? At this point, then, thank you, Mr. Randolph. At this point, unless there's an objection from the board, we are prepared to proceed with the finding of facts and a possible motion and a decision. Any objections from the board on that?
Mr. Chairman, we have a folder here with some information that's been highlighted. I don't know who generated it or where it came from, but I thought it might be interesting to review because it presents some information relative to this case.
Okay, we can review it.
And maybe it came from someone in the opposition. And if so, I'd like for them to speak up.
Also in the county thing that, under chapter 90.0 is, extended noise ordinance type stuff on, the motorcycles and things like that, and off-road motorcycle vehicle, motorcraft, and accessories, that they gotta be down to an equal level to or below what the manufacturer of the vehicle provide as the original equipment. And I know that we got some things here that show us some different numbers too. We got a county ordinance there for noise. And it's under 90.04.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Lister?
I was just curious, do we know where this information came from? Is this from the county or from one of the opposition or?
What was in the folder?
Yes.
It came from someone in opposition.
Could they speak to that? Would they be willing to speak to that? Or is that
The
inappropriate?
time is closed for public discussion on this.
Sorry.
I'm not saying we can't start over. How long do y'all want to be here tonight? Any more discussion? Are you ready for the finding of facts in this case? Board?
I know
I was-
some of this stuff here this is modifying some of the motorcycle. Yeah, could I ask him to
Go ahead.
come back to, or can he
No, come on back.
come back?
But I'm not gonna open it up to the public now.
Okay,
We've heard all of this,
Okay.
I don't know how many times.
thank you, sir.
These people, pro and against,
Okay,
have made application to us for a decision. I think both parties want a decision here tonight.
yes, sir, we will. We will.
Value, y'all question for value. I spent a lot of money to get y'all answers as far as value, decibels, and everything else. Did I do that for nothing?
I did hear everything you said.
Spent a lot of money because y'all question the fact of decibels, you question about values. I've spent a lot of money and time trying to pull all that together as far as values. I spent $4,500 for an appraisal for y'all, and, I'd just like that to be considered.
We remember all that, sir. Believe me, we do.
It wasn't mentioned last
Oh, no, the appraisal and property values were talked about extensively at last meeting. Maybe not you specifically, I don't know.
You said that we had no information on it, therefore you couldn't look at it. So with that being said, if I'd have known that, I wouldn't have spent all this money.
I understand.
I mean, you can look at the video and it says, well, we don't have any information on noise and decibels. We don't have any information on value loss or not loss. And there it is.
Are we ready to proceed?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
The board is required to negotiate the finding of facts. For a special exception, finding of facts. Item number 1, the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located, designed, and proposed to be operated according to the information submitted.
I can agree to that, Mr. Chairman.
You agree that it will not materially endanger?
Not endanger public health or safety, public health. Health of riders, that's a different thing, but public health, I don't think it would endanger people living in the area or people traveling either Holly Point Road or Lake Road. If I'm interpreting that statement correctly, I don't see any danger to the public health.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Lister, I'd kind of disagree with you, Mr. Lister. I think how you look at it, the public health of the noise and everything else that's considered around the track could affect your health, so.
I see that in item number 6, further down.
Okay, I'm gonna poll the board. I know how Mr. Lister feels. Mr. Wilks?
No, sir, I don't think it will.
I already heard from Mr. Ransdell. Ms. Coleman?
I don't think it will endanger public health.
Mr. Metz?
I don't think the dangers to public health or nothing like that at this moment,
Okay.
at this time. Later on down, like I said, might come in.
Just as information, the chair only votes if there's a tie. Okay, we affirm item number 1. The use complies with all regulations. Item number 2, the use complies with all regulations of this chapter.
Mr. Chairman, I'll say that I agree with that it complies with the regulations and standards of this ordinance.
Mr. Wilks?
I would concur.
Mr. Ransdell?
I'll agree with that as well.
Ms. Coleman?
I concur.
I concur with what he's applying for in this section here. Meets all the requirements.
Item number 3, the use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining properties or the use is a public necessity.
Mr. Chairman, I think we have evidence here that it has affected the property value of the adjoining property to the to this where this racetrack is located. If these appraisals are correct.
Mr. Lister?
I would agree with Mr. Wilks.
Mr. Ransdell?
I would agree as well.
Ms. Coleman?
I agree.
Mr. Metz?
With where it's located and stuff, yes, sir, with the public.
Chairman Boland, we can't hear Doug, so can you let him know to answer? I'm gonna put him on my speakerphone because we can't hear his response.
You can't hear him?
No, we need to
Has-
be able to hear him.
Has he been responding? Have you been able to?
I can see his mouth moving, but we can't hear, so I'm calling Doug.
Okay.
So that we can have his voice. Yes, what is your thought on 1 and 2, please, Doug? Thank you.
What was his answer on number 3?
I
Same.
haven't asked him. Go through the rest and we'll pull Doug at the end. Has everybody already done?
Everybody-
theirs?
Yeah, answered.
What's
Yeah.
what's number 3?
You,
It appears that it would devalue the property, yes.
what was his answer?
He agrees that it will devalue property.
Okay, thank you. Can he hear me reading these?
Yes, he can hear you read, we just can't hear him.
Ms. Winters, can you hear me?
I will have to call her to get her response on my other phone if we need her to speak. But she can, they can hear us, we just can't hear them.
Okay. Item number 4, the location and character of the use, if developed according to the information that's submitted and approved, will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located. Mr. Lester,
I would say no.
Mr. Wilks,
No.
Mr. Ransdale,
No.
Ms. Coleman,
No,
Mr. Metz,
No, it won't.
Mr. Hip.
No.
Okay. The use, item number 5, the use will not create traffic impacts that will endanger public safety or create or contribute to congestion.
I would agree with that statement, Mr. Chairman.
You would agree?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Wilks,
Yes, sir, agree with that.
Mr. Ransdale,
I'd agree with that as well.
Ms. Coleman,
I concur.
Mr. Metz,
I agree on that, Chairman.
Mr. Hip.
I agree with that.
Thank you. Item 6, the use will not create noise, light, glare, odor, or obstruction of airflow on adjoining properties. Mr. Lister.
I would not agree with that statement. I do wish that we had some sort of a noise guidance in our, but obviously there is noise associated with it, and according to the information that was presented, it reaches decibel levels that are questionable.
Mr. Wilks.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely create noise. I mean, this don't say how much noise or how, it's just very vague, but it does create noise, so.
Mr. Ransdale.
Yeah, it does create noise.
Ms. Coleman.
Yes, it does create noise.
Mr. Metz.
Yes, like earlier on, yes, it make noise above the depth.
Item 7, that the,
Mr. Hip?
yeah, I'm sorry. He concurs that it will create noise. Is that what I heard?
Correct.
Okay. Item 7, and the last item, that the proposed use will not be in conflict with, but will further the objectives of the Newberry County Comprehensive Plan for the area in which it is located. Mr. Lister.
I apologize, but I have to admit that I don't understand what the Newberry County Comprehensive Plan specifically says for this area. Maybe,
Lake development, which means, it can be used for agricultural, small density properties and such.
so I would say it is not in conflict with the comprehensive plan.
Mr. Wilks.
I would concur.
Mr. Ransdale.
I'll agree.
Ms. Coleman.
I concur.
I
Mr.
concur-
Metz,
I
okay.
concur on that, Chairman.
I think they lost you. Well, all right, number 7, the comprehensive.
Okay, members. We have at least 3 negatives on here. The chair would entertain a motion at this time.
Well, since it didn't pass all 70 steps, it doesn't.
It's pretty much cut and dry.
Yeah.
Got to have a motion. You got to go through the process.
Well, make a motion to not grant this exception.
Is there, motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Mr. Wilks and seconded
They made a motion not to accept.
by Mr. Ransdale.
He agrees.
Any more discussion? All in favor to deny this request, signify with the uplifted hand. No, I can't vote.
He agrees.
It's unanimous. The application is denied. Any further instructions from me to the applicant?
All right, Ms. Johnny, I got you on speaker. Can you please explain what that means going forward?
Okay, so I didn't hear.
They would like, the decision was to deny, would like to know how the tract property is to be handled going forward.
We did what we had to do.
Can y'all hear me?
Can you put it to your microphone? Thank you.
Zoom has kicked me off, so I apologize for y'all. But, so if you've denied the petition, permitted uses can continue. There's nothing that the BZA can do as far as permitted uses. But if there's a use that is not permitted, such as, a business using this tract for other purposes besides personal use, that can happen. But personal use, unless it's a non-permitted use, unless it's something that is not permitted in the zoning area, y'all can't control that. So the property owner can use the property as the zoning permits, but anything beyond that is not permitted. And so I hope that helps. The appeal process, as y'all know, is through circuit court. And so if the applicant is not happy with the decision, they do have the ability to appeal this through circuit court.
The question, Johnny, was asked of friends.
Well, friends, we get into a little bit of a slippery slope. Do friends pay to use the track? If friends are paying to use the track, we're now into a different kind of use. But again, it goes back to our zoning. If we don't have an ordinance that restricts so many people from being there, so many people from being on that track, but if it is found that this is an operating business of any type, now that's a zoning violation, and that's pretty significant.
Nothing changes. It's just like it was. We deal with it. Let's go.
Johnny,
Yeah.
So when we do a trailer park on the property, all we have.
thank you, Johnny.
Families and families.
The decision was made. If it would like to be appealed, you've heard what the county attorney has advised.
Can I ask, was there an original permit when you, I know I first said it was an original permit.
No.
Was there an original permit when you?
I'm not, y'all heard exactly what I heard from the attorney.
There's no money involved, we're good.
It is what it is.
Okay, we need to move on. Thank all of y'all for coming out. They have 30 days to appeal, right, Katie?
From the time that the
Appreciate wasting our time, our money. Nothing changed. So why were we?
Yes, it has. Yes, it
Nothing
has.
changed. What changed? Seriously, what changed? They can ride anytime they want, all day, every day, and that's what they're gonna do. So nothing changed. What changed? Let's see, they rode whenever they wanted before, now they ride whenever they want now. Nothing changed.
You'll be home in a couple days, you
And it wasn't even a legal track to begin with. What kind of nonsense is this?
We ruled against it. That's all we can do.
So so on that property, it's zone residential, don't allow trailer parks out there. So I could do a trailer park, ignore the guidelines, you turn me down on that exception, as long as I have friends and family, they can live in a trailer park on my property, right?
Well, that's a little different.
No, it's not different.
Yes, it is. You couldn't,
Look, these people.
to start with, you couldn't move a mobile home on there.
A year. These people been doing what they want for a year. They go to a special exception. I've spent tons of money and nothing happens. It's no different than it was the other day. How is that fair to everybody here to deal with this every single day?
Yeah, we denied, we denied it.
We did all we could do.
We denied it.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a gun range right on the property line, and at 5 o'clock in the morning, that's when I like to shoot. Is that okay? It's ridiculous. Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves. Seriously. Be ashamed of yourselves. Thanks for nothing. We'll go home and listen to
Can I
the
ask one
noise.
question?
Appreciate that.
Right, of you. If they have 20 bikes out there, 20
All I
bikes
can say
running,
is call,
for noise,
yes,
It's
and,
a noise.
Is it
Yeah.
cool? I mean,
So
yes,
we can
ma'am.
call,
yes,
the
call
not
out
zoning,
noise.
we call the sheriff.
Sheriff's
Yep.
Department.
That's,
Okay.
Yep,
that's it.
absolutely.
We just want to know what our
Yeah.
recourse is, what can we do? Okay.
Yeah. They came for a special exception for the racetrack, and we've denied that.
Racetrack.
Follow the procedure, ma'am.
I mean, it's-
Follow the procedure as it leaves here. I have. I'm familiar with
I
it.
do.
We did all we could do here tonight, sir.
It's not, that's why we were here, sir.
Yeah.
That's what.
All the digging and the piling of dirt and everything went on before anybody came to any ruling. Was that legal?
No, and at this,
Yeah.
But nobody said anything. It's back to now, it's zoned as what now?
Well, we need to move on to our next case.
Got other-
What is the zone in that area now?
It's R2 land.
Now, is it legal in R2 to have that train?
That's a special section and it's not, y'all need to go ahead.
Okay.
And then you can, tell it, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim.
Moving right along. Next case, case number VA 01-05-02-23. A variance request for the relief of the required 50-foot setback from the 360 contour of Lake Murray to be 15 feet for a sunroom addition to an existing house. The property is located at 69.
Can I make just a comment? I'm so sorry for losing Joni and Doug. I'm new to running this whole 9 yards, so my apologies to
Can-
the board and to everybody else in this room
Can-
for losing them. So
Can we get them back?
I
We're,
can't, I think we're good, but I'll try to.
Doug was gonna abstain from 2 of the cases anyway. We have a quorum without him. He's understanding that we're just gonna move on with our meeting without him. the
Do
rest
they
of the
know we
meeting.
lost them? I
Yes,
guess
they know.
do.
That, I've communicated with them.
Okay, okay. It happens. Case number VA 01-05-02-23, a variance request for the relief of the required 50-foot setback from the 360 contour of Lake Murray to be 15 feet for a sunroom addition to an existing house. The property is located at 69 Wilkerson Road, Prosperity, South Carolina, tax map number 653-3-25. Miss Katie.
Yes, the applicant homeowner is here tonight asking for a variance for the Lake Murray setback. He needs a 35-foot variance to be 15 feet from the 360 contour. As you can see on the map, his current existing house is already closer to the 360 contour than what his setback is now required. So he is asking to do an addition for a sun porch, and his hardship, like I said, is his existing house.
Any questions for Miss Katie? Thank you, Miss Katie. Anyone here to speak in favor of this, like possibly Mr. Slaughter?
Yes.
My name's Don Slaughter. Pretty much what Katie addressed, everything I need about the concern for the variance. She's worked really hard for me. I really do appreciate it, Katie. And I think she's touched every base. And I'd like to try to get this done if I can. And I want to thank you all, because I just saw what you all go through every once in a while. But I'd like to see if we can get it done. I appreciate it.
All right, any questions for Mr. Slaughter?
Mr. Slaughter, could the sunroom be placed somewhere else and still be effective?
No, it's, the way my property is, it's basically 2 lots. And one of those lots is a drain fill.
Okay.
So, and then I have a 900 square foot repair area on that same side. So I can't really do anything with basically half of my property. I've got a engineered system in it. And so it takes a lot of property for that to work properly.
Any more questions for Mr. Slaughter?
Okay, this may have been a question for Ms. Katie. I'm looking at one place, it says tax map 653-3-24, and the next place it says 653-3-25.
It is 25.
Okay. So we should make that correction. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Coleman. Let the record reflect that case number VA 01-05-02-23 has been corrected to -25.
The correction will be on the staff report.
Right.
Everything else is correct.
Any more questions for Mr. Slaughter or Ms. Katie? Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Slaughter.
Thank you.
Anyone here to speak in opposition to this request? I don't guess you need to reply to the opposition since none has been heard. The case is now closed to the public. And we'll go through the finding of facts. I hope all of you have them in front of you. The board is required to consider the following facts per section 153-052 A through F of the zoning ordinance. 153.052C, 1 through 5. There are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to a particular piece of property. Board?
Would concur? Mr. Chairman?
We concur.
Thank you. Concur, Mr. Met?
I concur with
Yeah.
you.
I'm a little hard of hearing, as y'all probably noticed. These conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity or in that district.
Concur with that as well.
Concur?
Concur.
Concur. Because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to a particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict use of the property. Board, how do you feel about that?
We concur with that one as well, Mr. Chairman.
We
Mr.
concur.
Wilkinson?
Concur.
The authorization of the variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance, and the effect of the variance will not allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in the zoning district, will not extend physically a non-conforming use of the land, will not change the zoning district boundaries shown on the official zoning map. Folks?
I concur.
Concur, yeah.
Concur.
In agreement, yep.
All concur. That being said, the chair would entertain a motion.
Move the variance be granted.
Motion's been made and seconded by Mr. Ransdell.
I'll
Motion-
second. Yep.
Motion was made by Mr. Lister. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Unanimous. You have your variance, Mr. Slaughter.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
30 days.
Don't forget to tell Brother Dave I asked about him.
I'll do that for sure.
Okay.
You good, man?
Next, case number VA 020502-23 has been deferred until June.
Is there anyone here for that case?
Oh, yeah, let me read it in case you are here for that case.
This is on 32 Mariners Point.
Yes.
So there was an error with the paperwork and the setback, what they were asking for a variance. The numbers were mistyped, so we have to postpone the hearing until June.
Okay. I'm the contractor, but you just asked that I show up if there were any questions. I'm neither for or against. I just wanted to make sure y'all had the information.
So we
But-
will, if we've got your contact information on this form, we'll call you tomorrow to explain.
Okay? Thank you.
So you're excused.
Yep.
The vote will be held in June, okay?
Holding up the project.
Yeah, we make errors sometime. Sorry. Next case number VA 03-05-02-23, a variance request for the relief of the minimum 1 acre size lot for the R2 rural zoning district. The property is located at 4704 South Carolina Highway 391, Prosperity, tax map number 470-20. Ms. Katie, yeah.
Back last year, you will know that this piece of property came before you all for the same variance. In R2 rural, a property has to be 1 acre minimum if you are changing the boundary lines. This property does not meet the 1 acre requirement. The new owner of Sly Superette, Mr. Middleton, has purchased property. If you're looking at Sly's to the right-hand side, you can see the green slashed box is what Mr. Middleton has purchased, but it still does not give him the full acre. So he is here tonight asking for a variance on the 1 acre minimum lot size, but is making the lot bigger than what it is currently now.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Katie? Thank you, Ms. Katie. Anyone here to speak in favor of this?
Is that Bart's part?
Yes,
Okay. Bart.
we're good.
We're good? Anyone here to speak in opposition to this request? Hearing none, we'll move on to the finding of facts. The board is required to consider the following factors per section 153.052A through F of the zoning ordinance. 153.052C, 1 through 5, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to a particular piece of property. Members?
I agree with that statement, Mr. Chairman.
I agree also.
Mr. Wilks?
Agree.
Ms. Coleman?
I concur.
Mr. Ness, okay. These conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity or in that district. Mr. Metz? Ms. Coleman?
I concur.
Mr. Ransdell?
I agree.
Mr. Wilks and Mr. Lister?
Concur.
Thank you. Because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to a particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict use of the property.
I
agree.
concur, Mr. Chairman.
I would agree with that.
I concur with it.
Okay.
I concur with it.
Unanimous, everybody concurs with that. Item 4 and 5, the authorization of the variance will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent property or the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance, and the effect of the variance would not allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in the zoning district, would not extend physically a non-conforming use of the land, would not change the zoning district boundaries shown on the official zoning map. Folks?
I concur.
Concur.
Agree.
I concur.
Unanimous on that. That being said, the chair would entertain a motion.
Move the variance be granted.
Motion's been made by Mr. Lister,
Yes.
second by Mr. Metz. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Unanimous, the application is approved. Next case number VA 04-05-02-23. A variance request for the relief of the 100-foot required buffer from all adjoining property lines of existing single-family residential and adjacent residentially zoned properties, for a canopy over the existing gas pumps. The property is located at 4704 South Carolina Highway 391, Prosperity, South Carolina, tax map number 470-20. Ms. Katie.
Yes, so the new owner is wanting to upgrade his gas pumps and also put a canopy over the pumps. In our zoning ordinance, a canopy gas pumps requires a 100-foot setback from all residentially and zoned property. So if you're standing in the middle of the road looking at Sly Superette, the left-hand side will need a 73.5-foot variance. The canopy will be 26.5 foot from that side property line. The right-hand side of the property will need a 11-foot variance. The edge of the canopy will be 89 foot from the edge of the property line. And from the front of the canopy towards the road, it will need a 21-foot variance. The canopy will be 79 foot from the edge of the property line.
Any questions for Ms. Katie?
And I have a drawing if y'all want to see this. With the
And just a comment from me on this, maybe most of y'all are probably familiar with Sly Superette. I don't remember it not being there. It's been an ongoing business for years, and, you know, what he's requesting is perfectly needed,
He's not
in my
adding any
opinion.
other pumps, right? He's keeping that too.
Anyone here to speak in favor?
And also one other thing I want to add, he's not adding any pumps. He's going to keep it just the 2 pumps that are already there, just upgrading them to a newer version.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Don Richardson. I've been a lifelong member of Newberry County all my life, and Mr. Justin had called me several weeks ago. I actually work in the fuel supply business and have for 25 years, just to pick my brain about doing these upgrades at his store since he's purchased this. The gas pumps that he currently has are just single product suction pumps that come from a little 500-gallon tank, and he really would like to expand and bury a 20,000-gallon tank with several dividers where he could sell multi-grades of product. So when Katie says that he doesn't want to change the pumps, that's half truths. He's only going to stick with 2 pumps, but each pump will be able to dispense a multiple different products from the tanks that he's going to put in the ground. So I just wanted to clarify that for you, but he is going to stick with 2 MPDs. He and myself have met with the DOT gentleman out there, and they have a plan. As you can tell, parking has always been an issue here. They have a plan to mark off the road frontage to keep people from parking there, and he's going to move the parking on the new parcel of land that he bought to the right of the store if you're facing the store. So with that, if you could take that under consideration as well, and if any of y'all have any questions for me, I'll be glad to try to answer them to clarify anything.
Okay, Mr. Richardson. Any questions for Mr. Richardson?
Mr. Richardson, moving the tanks closer to the store is not a practical move, is it?
I'm sorry?
Moving the tanks closer to the actual store?
They may have to move 2 feet,
Okay.
but nothing significant. The DOT is not going to change the right-of-way. We've actually talked about a 24-foot wide canopy by 40-foot long. We're going to shave that 24-foot down to 20 to try to get a couple of feet there. But the gas pumps and the islands, the existing pumps will be put basically in the same footprint as what the existing pumps are at currently, with the exception of a foot or 2.
Okay, one question. Has DHEC been in on these changes?
They have not. DHEC is not required to get involved until we apply for a permit to install those tanks.
I see, okay.
And then they will come into play and they will visually and personally inspect that process as it goes through. And then we will have to apply for a permit to operate. And then there will be a yearly inspection of a DHEC personnel on site each year, as it is with every convenience store in the state,
Okay.
to keep up with the EPA guidelines.
Okay,
Good question.
thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And canopy, how high it's planning on being off the
The
ground?
the bottom of the canopy from finished grade normally is about 14 foot tall, and then you have a 3 foot fascia, so total height should be about 17 feet. But, from finished grade to the bottom should be around 14 to 14 and a half. So it should not have any visibility obstructions.
I may should ask this question on the last appeal, but the property that's being purchased or has been purchased behind the store, is that for a store expansion, or could the fuel tanks be put back there?
That's not their property.
Yeah, the property, as I understand it, that they just purchased is the parcel to the right of the store, and it does not go behind the store.
This isn't theirs.
Oh.
Their property will, this still goes with this house. This is.
Okay, so the property they purchased
Is right here.
is, okay.
Yeah.
A faint red line, I
Yes.
see it better now.
Yeah.
Okay. But that would not be a location for the fuel tanks.
And if I understood Mr. Middleton, when he and I discussed it, the parcel that he just purchased will be to move the parking to the other side of the store, and it will also be, he is also gonna have DOT to extend the driveway entrance another 60 to 80 feet, so that large tractor trailer trucks that normally park parallel to the road right on the edge of the road will have a place to pull in to minimize the traffic burden that the new pumps is gonna cause.
And DOT has approved that.
Yes, DOT has approved that. So this is all kind of a three-step process that, you know, and it doesn't matter, but he's looking at spending between $300,000 and $400,000 to do all this. The canopy is just, you don't have to have it to pump gas, but you don't ever see a store without a gas canopy. It's just part of the process.
Any more questions for Mr. Richardson? Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Good job.
Thank you.
Good job. Anyone else to speak in favor of this application? Anyone to speak in opposition? Hearing none, we're required to consider the 5 finding of facts. The board is required to consider the following factors for section 153-052A through F of the zoning ordinance. They are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to a particular piece of property. These conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity or in that district. Because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to a particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict use of the property. The authorization of the variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance, and the effect of the variance would not allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in the zoning district, would not extend physically a non-conforming use of the land, would not change the zoning district boundaries shown on the official zoning map. And before I ask for your opinion, did Doug fill out recusal?
Yes, but he's not even a part of the meeting anymore,
Okay, so it doesn't matter.
so it doesn't matter.
Okay. This was probably one of them because
Yes,
it's close
these
to,
two cases were.
close to
would
his,
abstain,
yeah.
but since we've lost him on Zoom and we had a quorum here, we're gonna treat him as he's not even in the meeting anymore.
Okay.
So he will not be voting, or he hasn't been able to hear us.
Okay, folks, how do we feel about number one there? Concur or not concur?
Concur.
Concur? Mr. Wilks? Concur. Ms. Coleman?
I concur.
Number 2 is up.
Concur with that one as well, Mr. Chairman.
I concur.
Concur. Unanimous on concur on number 2. Number 3,
Concur on that, no.
Ms. Coleman?
And I do too, I concur.
Everybody's nodding their head.
Concur,
Mr.
yes.
Wilks?
In agreement.
Mr. Wilks came in. Number 4 and 5.
Concur.
I concur.
In agreement.
I concur.
Yep.
Chairman.
Thank you, gentlemen and ladies. That being said, the chair would entertain a motion.
Move the variance be granted.
Motion's been made by Mr. Lister. I'm about to lose my voice.
Me too.
Is there a second?
I second it.
2 seconds. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Katie.
Next item, case number VA 05-05-02-23. A variance request for the relief of the average of the 113-foot setback from the 360 contour of Lake Murray to be 98 feet for a new site-built house. The property is located on Jennings Point, Prosperity, South Carolina, tax map number 653-1-1. Ms. Katie.
The property owner is asking for a 15-foot variance to be 98 foot from the 360 contour of Lake Maury for a new site-built house. His daughter is wanting to build a house on the property, and because of existing septic tanks and the septic tank that she will have to provide for her home, she is needing this variance. In red circle is where the projected house is being asked to be located.
Any questions for Ms. Katie? Thank you, Ms. Katie. Anyone here to speak in favor of this application?
Against me.
All right. Are you Mr.
First
Martin
for
by
me.
chance?
I appreciate y'all considering it.
Are you Mr. Martin?
Yeah, I am, sir. I'm sorry. I can't hear either, so I hate. No, I do appreciate y'all considering it or for it, but like I said, due to the previous septic system and other structures and the way the land's getting blocked off for the new house for, I just need, the guy says he needs it to get another set of drain fields in there to make sure we don't contaminate nothing, and, you know, the lake drains like it's supposed to and work like it's supposed to. And I don't know what else to tell you, but I answer any questions I possibly can for you if I may.
Any questions?
You
for
know,
Mr.
I appreciate you just considering it for me.
Good, thank you. Any
Thank you.
questions for
Yes, sir.
Mr. Martin?
Is that gonna be divided up, partial? I look like it's all in one big.
It is
parcel.
one, it will be divided after the house is built, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I got 2 daughters, and that's what, I mean, being honest with you.
Just one.
Yes, sir. I mean, it's over 2 acres there, so. And I think when I first bought it, the county or somebody told me it could be broken into 4 lots, but it never will be. So, that's what I'm asking, so I appreciate it very much.
Any more questions from Mr. Martin?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I didn't want to run away before I was supposed to.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Anyone else to speak in favor of this application? Anyone to speak opposed to this application? Hearing none, we'll move on to the finding of facts. The board is required to consider the following factors per section 153 decimal 052 A through F of the zoning ordinance. 153.052C 1 through 5. There are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to a particular piece of property. These conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity or in that district. Because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to a particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict use of the property The authorization of the variance will not be a substantial detriment to adjacent property or the public good, and the character of that district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance, and the effect of the variance would not allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in the zoning district, would not extend physically a non-conforming use of the land, would not change the zoning district boundaries shown on the official zoning map. How do we feel about number one, folks?
I concur.
Mr. Wilks?
Concur.
Mr. Ransdale?
I
Mr. Metz?
concur.
Ms. Coleman? Number two.
Concur with that one as well. Mr. Chairman.
Concur.
I concur.
Thank you. Item number three.
I concur.
Mr. Metz?
Concur as well,
All
Mr. Chairman.
okay. Unanimous on number three. 4 and 5, folks.
Concur on that one as well, Mr. Chairman.
Concur.
Thank you. It's unanimous on all of them. The chair would entertain a motion.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move that we grant the request for the variance for a new house to be built.
Motion's been made by Judge Coleman. Is there a second?
Second.
By Judge Metz. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. It's unanimous. The application is granted. Thank you, Mr. Martin.
I do feel for y'all from what I saw earlier today.
You should have been here last month.
I mean, it looked like to me that would be more of a problem with the police and different things and doing something that, y'all did y'all job.
Thanks for the
Thank you.
vote of confidence.
Next case, number VA 06-05-02-23. A variance request for the relief of the required 25-foot setback from the road right-of-way to be 2 feet for a new site-built house. The property is located at 784 Marina Way, Prosperity, South Carolina, tax map number 592-2-123. Ms. Katie?
So I'm going to talk about this case and the next case because it's for the same property and it will, I'll explain it at the same time. So on the map, I couldn't get it to highlight in orange because I wanted to keep the floodplain layer up for you. So what is in red is the floodplain. So in an AE zone, which is what this property is identified as, means FEMA has gone out and did engineering studies that they think in the 100-year flood, this is the high water mark of where it could potentially flood. So if you build within any of that red area, FEMA requires you to elevate your house to BFE, which is your base flood elevation, and Newberry County adopted a 3-foot freeboard, meaning they have to build at the 365. So for this piece of property, you can see it's a property that has the red house with the 784. That's where we're talking about. As you can see, he has very little property that is outside of the red. The existing house on the lot is very old and dilapidated and needs a lot of work. So he is wanting to demolish the existing home and put a new manufactured home out on the property. His goal is to try to locate this manufactured home outside of the floodplain area. So with that being said, he needs these setbacks to be able to position the house outside of the floodplain. His second request is for this existing storage shed that you can see on the property. If the variance is approved for the variance for his new house, then that's going to change the location of his shed just a little bit. So that's the second request, is for a shed that's already there. The location just needs to be backed up a little bit for placement purposes.
Okay. Any questions from Ms. Katie?
I have one question. During the 1,000-year flood that we had not long ago,
So for this particular piece of property, I do not know where the water, how far it came up. In other conversations that residents are dealing with the same situation of FEMA flood lines, they said it did not. But this is where FEMA says that it could, and that's the guideline that we have to go by. And the thing about FEMA is even if 1 inch of that house is within that red, the entire house has to be to the FEMA requirements.
Yeah.
So if 1 footer, 1 square inch of a porch is in that red zone, it all has to be elevated.
Any more questions from Ms. Katie? That's good information.
You
Ms.
will need to
Katie.
vote separately for the 2 cases, but for discussion purposes, we can combine it to one.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Katie. Anyone here to speak in favor of this request? Anyone here to speak in opposition to this request? Hearing none, we'll move on to the 5 finding of facts. If I can read them again. The board is required to consider the following factors per section 153.052A through F of the zoning ordinance. 153.052C 1 through 5, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to a particular piece of property. These conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity or in that district. Because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to a particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict use of the property. The authorization of the variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance, and the effect of the variance would not allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in the zoning district, would not extend physically a non-conforming use of the land, would not change the zoning district boundaries shown on the official zoning map. Folks, how do we feel about number 1?
Concur?
I concur.
Concur on.
Mr.
Concur.
Agreement.
All in agreement. Number 2, folks.
Concur on that one as well.
I concur.
Everyone's in agreement. Number 3.
Concur.
Concur.
Agreement.
Concur.
Concur on.
Number 4 and 5.
Concur on that one as well,
Concur on both of them.
Mr. Chairman.
Both of them.
Mr. Wilks? Everyone in agreement, the chair would entertain a motion on this application.
Chairman will make a motion to accept the variance as requested.
Judge Randall's made a motion, is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman. Second.
Judge Wilks? Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. It's approved. This could be the last,
So we got one more
yeah,
thing.
This is the shed.
yeah. Case number VA 070502-23, a variance request for the relief of the required 25-foot setback from the road right-of-way to be 2 feet, and a variance request for the relief of the required 7-foot side yard setback to be 2 foot from the side yard for a storage building. The property is located at 784 Marina Way, Prosperity, South Carolina, and Miss Katie has already given us the information on this one. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this request? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this request? Hearing none, we move on to the finding of facts. The board is required to consider the following factors per section 153.052A through F of the zoning ordinance. 153.052C, 1 through 5. There are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to a particular piece of property. How do we feel about that, folks?
We concur, Mr. Chairman.
Concur on. Chairman.
Number 2, these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity or in that district.
Concur on that one as well.
I'll concur on that also.
Thank you. Because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to a particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict use of the property. Same question, folks.
Concur. Concur.
Mr. Wilks?
Concur.
I concur.
Thank you. Item 4 and 5, the authorization of the variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or the public good, and the character of that district or the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance, and the effect of the variance would not allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in the zoning district, would not extend physically a non-conforming use of the land, would not change the zoning district boundary shown on the official zoning map. How do we feel about that, folks?
Concur.
I concur.
That being said, the chair would entertain a motion.
Move the variance be granted.
Motion's been made by Judge Lister, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Judge Ransdale. Any more discussion? Excuse me. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. The motion is, the application is approved. Thank you. Next scheduled BZA meeting is June the 6th, and we do have at least one item, the second one that we didn't get to tonight. Right, Ms. Katie?
That's right, so we,
Got one more, I think.
no, because we're, Mariner's View, we're gonna, yeah. So, we're gonna, unfortunately have to push the 32 Mariner's View to the June 6th meeting. That will be the only business, at that meeting. So what we need to discuss now is, July. Our scheduled meeting would hit on July 4th, which none of us want to be here on July 4th. So my question to you all is, do you want to pick another day in July to hear cases if they come about, or do we want to push all cases to August? It's up to you guys to decide how you want to handle July. I just need a motion and a second and a,
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Katie, I think we all need to set a date. I mean, we're here for the public good, and we need to be available for anybody that's got anything business that comes in front of us.
Yeah, I believe we should too.
do you want to move it to the following Tuesday, some other time that week? What's the board's,
That works.
That works.
the next
Following
Tuesday?
Following
All right,
Tuesday.
so the July meeting will be July the 11th at 5:30,
Okay.
if business.
I don't think all this is gonna go with me.
If somebody just make a motion and second it.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the adjournment.
Motion's been made to adjourn. All in favor?
No,
we
we
need to-
got to vote on our July 11th meeting at
Chairman,
5:30.
I'll make a motion, we meet on July 11th.
I'll second.
Now you
All in-
can do the,
Okay, I move for the
All in favor
adjournment.
signify by saying aye. All in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye. Before you go, I got